Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
But you don't seemingly like your own character, so she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
The star, Rachel Zegler, is unbelievably charmless in public.
She was, as woke as they are.
She just sounds bitter and angry.
Rachel Zegler just lived every actor's worst nightmare, watching her own movie bomb in real time, in a nearly empty theater. Not even Discount Tuesday could save Disney's woke Snow White remake from its fate: total box office annihilation. The film didn't just flop, it disappeared into oblivion, leaving Zegler, 23, and a handful of loyal friends as some of the only people brave enough to witness the disaster firsthand. For an actress once touted as Hollywood's next big thing, this was a brutal wake-up call. The numbers are in, and the message couldn't be clearer. No one showed up. On March 25, 2025, Zegler rounded up a few ride-or-die friends, Ilda Mason, Jorge Mason, Remy, and Maria Isabel Demison, to sit through her own movie in what looked like a ghost town of a theater. Thanks to Ilda's Instagram stories, the internet got a front-row seat to the awkward spectacle. With barely another soul in sight, Ilda tried to lighten the mood, screaming Zegler's name as it flashed across the screen. Rachel's response? A forced laugh and an awkward cheer for herself. It's unclear if they rented out the theater or if the empty seats just came with the movie, but one thing was certain. This was not the blockbuster moment Disney had hoped for. Trying to make the best of a sinking ship, the group even jumped on a viral trend, approaching a theater employee and asking for 2 tickets, please. His innocent reply? For which movie? The camera then panned to them holding their Snow White-themed popcorn bucket and souvenir cup, looking utterly baffled. Ouch. And just when you thought the night couldn't get more painfully ironic, Zegler clutched a bouquet of flowers, likely a sympathy gift from her friends, because the box office certainly wasn't handing out trophies. She may have played Snow White, but the only thing this movie is kissing is rock bottom. With just $3.5 million in Thursday previews and a disastrous $43 million opening weekend, Snow White isn't just a flop, it's an expensive one. For comparison, The Little Mermaid remake pulled in $95 million in its debut weekend. Snow White, not even in the same league. And let's not forget Dumbo, a movie that made roughly the same amount but with a fraction of the budget. Speaking of budgets, Snow White reportedly cost over $250 million to make, and that's before marketing. Now, with theaters emptier than ever, critics are having a field day. Social media is flooded with seating charts showing barely any tickets sold and photos of lone audience members sitting in desolate rows. Some internet users, never ones to miss a joke, have even suggested setting up a GoFundMe just to help Disney break even. As the Snow White disaster unfolded, an old clip of Zegler resurfaced online, and let's just say it didn't age well.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
In the now viral video, she confidently declared that people would wait in line to see her movies. Fast forward to today, and the only thing stacking up are receipts, each one pointing to Snow White as a royal disaster. In the clip, Zegler passionately states, "The winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws and my cracks and my breaks, people will wait in line to see me, too." Well, reality had other plans. The only thing waiting in line now is the internet, eager to roast her. Theaters across the country were deserted, ticket sales were abysmal, and critics wasted no time calling her out. One user put it bluntly, "Welcome back to reality, princess. Snow White was a complete flop." Meanwhile, Ian Miles Cheong poured gasoline on the fire by reposting the clip on X, reminding everyone that Snow White is officially Disney's lowest-performing live-action remake in decades. But Snow White wasn't the only thing crashing and burning. So was Rachel Zegler's relationship with her co-star, Gal Gadot. What started as a promising collaboration between two Hollywood stars quickly unraveled into a behind-the-scenes disaster that no one saw coming, or maybe they did, and just chose to ignore the warning signs. A bombshell report from Variety has blown the lid off Disney's latest catastrophe, exposing a whirlwind of behind-the-scenes drama that turned an already troubled production into a full-fledged PR nightmare. And, no surprise here, Zegler was right in the middle of it all. According to anonymous but highly connected Disney insiders, studio executives had been wary of Zegler for quite some time. Her off-the-cuff remarks slamming the original Snow White had already set off alarm bells, sparking outrage among fans and industry veterans alike. But instead of stepping in to manage the situation, Disney did what Disney does best: kept quiet and hoped for the best. That silence, a colossal mistake. Then came Disney's D23 Expo, a golden opportunity to turn things around. Zegler took the stage, beaming with confidence, delivering what seemed to be a well-rehearsed, crowd-pleasing speech. But just when the audience thought she was wrapping up, she dropped a bomb, a wildly unexpected and highly divisive political statement that left the room in stunned silence. Cue instant panic at Disney headquarters. Studio executives were in shock. Their $270 million fairy tale, already teetering on the edge of disaster, had just nosedived straight into a political firestorm. Damage control became their top priority, but the damage, irreparable.
Mentioned like he's actually a nasty person behind the scenes. Here is an exchange on from his first episode of his show where he's making his father practice speaking on the red carpet.
And just when you thought the Snow White disaster couldn't get messier, Jonah Platt stepped in to throw some serious shade at Rachel Zegler. Jonah, son of Snow White producer Mark Platt, took to Instagram in a now-deleted comment and did not hold back. According to Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, and People, Jonah spilled some major tea. His dad had to literally hop on a plane to personally scold Zegler for dragging politics into the film's promo tour. This is called adult responsibility and accountability, Jonah wrote, before bluntly stating that Zegler's behavior had clearly tanked the movie's success. His words sent shockwaves through the industry, with many questioning how Disney had let things spiral so far out of control. And apparently, even after Mark Platt flew to New York to beg Zegler to tone it down, she wasn't having it. Her controversial statement stayed up for weeks, fueling even more backlash. The longer the controversy lasted, the more the film's reputation suffered, turning what was already a shaky release into a complete PR catastrophe. But the drama didn't stop there. Behind the scenes, things between Zegler and Gal Gadot took a turn for the worse. While insiders initially claimed they got along fine during filming, the lead-up to the movie's release got awkward, fast. The tension hit a peak at the 2025 Oscars, when the two actresses were paired to present an award together. Their body language was stiff, their smiles forced, and fans instantly picked up on the palpable discomfort. And if that wasn't enough, Zegler later dropped what many saw as a backhanded jab at Gadot, calling her a professional pageant queen in an Instagram reply. The internet immediately called out the comment as shady, with fans and critics, alike speculating that Zegler was throwing subtle digs at her co-star. Even Disney insiders admitted it felt dismissive toward a fellow actress, further fueling the idea that tension had been brewing for a while. But behind the scenes, things were already on edge. Zegler and Gadot found themselves on opposite sides of a highly charged political issue, and let's just say, the fallout was impossible to ignore. With Snow White already drowning in controversy, this added layer of behind-the-scenes tension only cemented its reputation as one of Disney's most troubled productions to date. Just when you thought the Snow White fiasco couldn't spiral any further, Rachel Zegler's controversies managed to make things even worse, this time dragging Gal Gadot into the storm. Zegler's one-sided political posts didn't just stir up online debates, they reportedly put Gadot in a dangerous position. Due to her background, Gadot became the target of intense backlash and even threats to her safety. The situation got so bad that Disney had to pay for extra security to protect the mother of four. She didn't understand the repercussions of her actions, for the film, for Gal, for anyone. An insider spilled. And as if that wasn't enough, Disney's $270 million disaster of a film was already bleeding money, thanks to expensive reshoots, and Zegler's never-ending controversial takes. Then came the final straw. After the presidential election, Zegler fired off an Instagram post reading, "May Trump's supporters never know peace." That one sentence sent Disney executives into full-blown meltdown mode. At that point, the studio had had enough. She was alienating half the potential audience for an already doomed film. In a desperate attempt at damage control, Disney tried one last Hail Mary. Producer Mark Platt personally flew out to meet Zegler, not once, but twice. After weeks of back and forth, she finally agreed to let a Disney-paid social media expert approve every single post leading up to the film's March 21st release. But just when it seemed like the drama was settling down, the internet caught something else. On March 20th, just hours before Snow White limped into theaters, Zegler took to Instagram, calling the film a life-changing experience and gushing over the greatest crew in the world. She reminisced about working with them for 3 magical summers in London. But guess who was completely missing from this love fest? Gal Gadot. No mention, no photos, no appreciation post. Could this have been an innocent oversight? Maybe. But when you add in the Oscar night backhanded jab and all the behind-the-scenes tensions, it's hard not to see this as another not-so-subtle snub, and the drama doesn't stop there. If Snow White's disastrous box office numbers weren't already a fairy tale nightmare, the swirling controversies around Rachel Zegler certainly aren't helping. From the moment Disney cast Zegler as their new Snow White, the internet erupted. Some critics took issue with a Latina actress playing the pale-skinned princess, much like the backlash Halle Bailey faced as the Little Mermaid's Ariel. But Zegler didn't back down. In a since-deleted social media post, she fired back at outraged critics. "Yes, I am Snow White. No, I am not bleaching my skin for the role." And she didn't stop there. Per the Wall Street Journal, she even called her critics losers obsessed with maintaining the bloodline purity of a cartoon princess. That did not calm the storm. In a 2022 Variety interview with Andrew Garfield, Zegler acknowledged the frenzy surrounding her casting, admitting she had become a trending topic because of angry people. But here's the problem. While controversy can sometimes boost a film, Snow White isn't seeing that kind of magic, and Zegler's own comments about the story didn't help. In a 2022 interview with Extra, she raised eyebrows when she called the original 1937 Snow White storyline weird.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
Okay.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird, she said, referring to Prince Charming. And with that, she sealed her fate, alienating nostalgic Disney fans, conservative audiences, and even her own co-stars. At this point, Snow White isn't just a flop, it's one of the biggest disasters in Disney's history. And just like that, Disney's attempt to modernize Snow White turned into one of its biggest PR disasters. At first, the studio hinted at updating the beloved fairy tale to appeal to modern audiences, but when Rachel Zegler spoke about it, she didn't just suggest a few tweaks. Her wording made it sound like she was outright dismissing the original film's romance and core message altogether. That's when things really took a turn. She didn't just say they were giving the story a fresh perspective. She made it clear that they were throwing out the classic elements entirely, and fans were not happy. Snow White, the first full-length animated Disney movie, is a classic for a reason, many argued. Critics pounced, accusing Zegler of disrespecting the very film she was hired to celebrate. Memes flooded social media. Fans called her comments tone-deaf, and even questioned why she took the role if she disliked the original so much. If you hate the story so much, why play Snow White? One viral tweet read, but the controversy didn't stop there. Game of Thrones star Peter Dinklage had his own issues with Disney's approach. Back in 2022, during an episode of Marc Maron's WTF podcast, Dinklage slammed Disney for what he saw as hypocrisy. They're progressive in one way, But they're still telling a story about 7 dwarfs, he said. Disney panicked. They scrambled to change how the 7 characters were portrayed. But by then, the damage was done. With backlash. From every angle, Snow White wasn't just facing criticism, it was becoming a cautionary tale of how not to handle a remake. Dinklage didn't stop there. He doubled down, questioning how Disney could claim to be Dinklage didn't stop there. He doubled down, questioning how Disney could claim to be progressive while still portraying dwarfs in a way he saw as outdated. They lived together in a cave? Really? He scoffed. His blunt criticism sent shockwaves across social media, igniting fierce debates. Some fans agreed, calling the portrayal outdated, while others argued that Disney was erasing dwarf actors from a major Hollywood production. The backlash forced Disney into damage control mode, leading to a major shift in how the 7 dwarfs were portrayed. And just when it seemed like the controversy had reached its peak, another unexpected voice joined the conversation. Wee Man. Himself. The Jackass star didn't hold back. He slammed what he saw as Hollywood's growing hypocrisy, accusing the industry of sidelining dwarf actors while pretending to be progressive. His words sparked yet another round of heated discussions. Online, Disney's attempt to fix the controversy, it backfired spectacularly. Instead of casting real actors for the 7 dwarfs, the studio opted for CGI replacements. Fans were not impressed. The moment the first images dropped, backlash exploded. The photorealistic approach looked awkward, unnatural, even unsettling. Critics accused Disney of erasing opportunities for dwarf actors while still failing to satisfy progressive audiences. The move only deepened the film's ongoing controversy. Now, not only was Snow White under fire for its casting choices and storyline, but even its visuals had become a lightning rod for criticism. Social media erupted with frustration, with fans calling the CGI dwarfs soulless and lifeless. Some even compared them to Cats, 2019, a movie infamous for its unsettling digital effects. Instead of winning audiences over, Disney had unintentionally alienated them further. What was meant to be a magical reimagining had spiraled into an unrelenting PR disaster, and Disney had no way to stop the bleeding. Disney knew the storm was coming, so they ducked for cover. Instead of a glitzy Hollywood premiere, they went low-key. A daytime pre-party on March 15th, a quiet screening at El Capitan Theater, a hidden European premiere in a Spanish castle. Why? Fear of controversy? Lack of confidence? Or a silent admission that this movie was doomed from the start? With a muted launch, relentless backlash, and a $270 million price tag dragging it down, Snow White wasn't just a fairy tale, it was a cautionary tale. From the beginning, the film faced wave after wave of controversy, from Rachel Zegler's divisive comments to Peter Dinklage's criticisms. Every attempt at damage control seemed to make things worse. Even the visuals, like the CGI dwarfs, became another point of backlash. Disney had bet big on a modernized Snow White, but with fans rejecting it at every turn, the real question became clear. How did they get it so wrong?